Time Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Robert Gaines. We have a productivity expert with us today. A matter of fact, it was a book that I read that started this whole podcasting project. And so I'm very happy to bring on George Rivera. George, thank you so much for joining us on the Free Time Mastermind.
Hey there, Robert. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, we had joined up on Podmatch, which is a fantastic guesting and hosting service. And I connected with your message on there because productivity and productivity tools are a fascination for me. And I've seen how good they can make things. As a matter of fact, this podcast wouldn't have been possible had I not read a book on productivity. It kind of kickstarted all of this. You've got a book as well. We're going to get into it. We're going to slowly unveil some of the secrets from the buyback time formula. And if you don't mind, let's start off with a quick win for the audience. What is a fast way somebody can get back an hour of time a day?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing I like to do is ask people, what are like three or four things you know you shouldn't be doing? Everybody sort of knows that already. And I'm like, let's tackle the low-hanging fruit. And you give yourself $1 per hour value and you measure like, is that thing, those three or four things that I know I should be doing, where does that rank among that level? And when I did that for myself, I discovered, as someone who values their time at least $1,000 an hour, I discovered I was doing a lot of $50 an hour or less things. And so, yeah, quickly finding what's that low-hanging fruit and let's get it off your plate. Let's get some capable help to take it off your hands.
And you're absolutely right. A lot of people know what they need to do. Like, I was struggling with my diet recently, and I know what I need to do. I've read the books. I just need, so implementation and execution are, a big part of getting people going. And sometimes people need a coach, they need a helper, they need a mentor. And not to be funny, sometimes they just need to commit some money, put their money where their mouth is, and that will get them over the hump. Because I know when I've given away things for free, people tend not to make that transformation. But when somebody pays for the coaching and they get financially involved, they get a lot more involved in the outcomes. Have you found that to be
Absolutely.
true too?
Oh, yeah. I know that as the person who pays for things often because I know that if I don't invest in it, I'm likely to not even, care for it. But yeah, if I put in, a good chunk of change into it, I'm like, I want to see this investment come back to me in one way, shape, or form. So absolutely that helps.
It's amazing the power of having skin in the game and how it changes your psychology towards the approach. And I have shut down some. Well, first of all, one thing that I got a lot of time back on, and I'm not recommending this to the audience, but I actually deleted my Facebook page. It was consuming a lot of time. I think the platform, what it was feeding me anyway, wasn't very positive stuff. I'm a positive guy, and I was getting upset about things happening in a different part of the world. I thought, what am I doing, man? And Facebook is not my audience. LinkedIn is my audience. YouTube is my people. Maybe eventually I'll reach out for marketing purposes and have some presence on Meta. But for me personally, and to be honest with you, George, I at least got 45 minutes to an hour back a day, each day, just zapping Facebook, and I'm happier. I mean, look at me.
Yeah, yeah. It's like encouragement for your soul, just not being on there. So it's like, why didn't I do that a long time ago? But they have
That's
a way of
right.
sucking us in, and we just got to be aware of it and just break that.
That's right. And they make the platforms irresistible and addictive, on purpose. Now, I was doing some research for productivity, in particular, some of your structure that you talk about in your book. You talk about delegating outcomes, not tasks, which I really like that. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. The old me would have been delegating tasks, not giving clear example of what finished work looks like or successfully finished work looks like. So now when I delegate outcomes, it's like you almost give them the liberty on how to reach that outcome without having to follow some process that could be flawed. And if they don't have a process, I give them my process first. But then, you give them the liberty, assuming you hire the right person, which is also part of the program, but assuming you have somebody who's capable and able to think on their own and be efficient, then I give them the liberty of, hey, this is the process that I've known that worked for me. This is the outcome. I consider you a smart person. If you can do it better, by all means.
I was really hard to learn that and to really absorb that. I'm from a military culture. As we said off camera, I was in the Army for 8 years, and we were told what to do. We were told exactly how to do it, and I still remember. I mean, I was in the Army a million years ago, but sometimes when I'm doing mechanic work on my own vehicle, I still like to do some of my own stuff, change the filters, and do light work on it. And immediately, as soon as I open the hood, I hear the section sergeant going, proper tool, for the proper job with the proper TM, which is training manual. So if you were in the motor pool and you were going to do something on your vehicle, you had to have the right tool for the job. You had to have your the book out for that vehicle. So it's very systemic. So we're used to telling people exactly do A, B, C, D. But I think, George, your way is much wiser. Hire good people that are already got that are ambitious and they're quality driven, and don't tell them do A, do B. This is what I want from your work, and that's hard. So, do you have trouble in consulting with people for them letting go of wanting to tell people how to? Because that's a time vampire. Having to
Yeah.
explain exactly how you want them to do it.
Absolutely. And it's also part of our identity is having some of that control as well. And some of that could stem from like some PTSD, past experiences that haven't worked out well in the attempt of delegation. So it's almost like, and speaking for myself, I would try to take matters into my own hands. I'd have somebody that I would delegate down to, and it would just boomerang back up to me. And I'd rob from the future instead of, telling them what they need to do. I'd say, it's quicker if I just do it myself and I knock it out. But yeah, it's quicker in that moment. But like I said, robbing from the future, I'm training my team on depending on me versus thinking for themselves. And so, yeah, once I learned how to delegate properly, that's when I got my freedom back.
How much of that, George, has to do with letting go of that? Because I'm a perfectionist, and that's what makes delegation so difficult for me, because I'm very even when I cut shorts for this channel, I'm listening to the cadence of the speaker. Like you have a certain way of speaking, and when I cut the shorts for this episode, the music is going to match your mood. It's going to match your beat. The beats are going to hit on your cadence. I mean, it's the level of detail I put into this is nuts. So to put that in somebody else's hands drives me crazy. But if you do want to delegate, you do have to release some of that expectation of perfection, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. You got to let go of something. And I recommend people stay in their zone of genius, stay in things that actually move the needle for the business and that you actually enjoy doing too, that you should enjoy some of what you do too, right? So that's my suggestion. But yeah, I have this saying, sometimes I butcher it up, but it's like, what is it? Perfection is the enemy of progress. Have you heard something like that? I
Yes.
probably said it wrong, but that's like a philosophy that once I accepted and adopted that, it's like, okay, let's say if I consider myself 100% at something, even though I'm not lying to myself, but whatever, I'm 100%. Somebody gets to my 100, they're at 80. That should be good enough. Like we can live with this difference of whatever that difference is. But I realize when I step out of the way, still, if I'm at 100, they're like at 120, and I'm like, why was I ever hanging on to that thing to begin with? But yeah, my thing is get close enough, should be good enough. But I had to check my own ego at the door and be like, holy cow, yeah, I'm not the best at this, and I thought I was.
You're right. Sometimes people surprise me and they do things better than I did them. And they did them in ways that I never would have thought. So sometimes if you allow people the grace to innovate and make their own decisions how they want to do it. So I do think, again, for the people watching this, don't let it take half a century to figure that out like it did for me. But yeah, I'm really at peace. And sometimes I've really been wowed out by the quality of some of the delegation. And of course, we don't have much time to go into this part, but there's a very key difference between abdication and delegation. Abdication is, you just kind of throw it. You don't give them the expectations. You don't give them the tools to finish the job. And that's where a lot of failure comes from. So I think, would you agree that good delegation has a lot to do with being highly specific on the outcome that you want?
That's it. Yeah, I was doing it the wrong way for so many years. Wasn't on purpose. I just didn't know any better. And through trial and error and bumping around is how I came to the proper way to delegate. And life's been great ever since.
Well, a lot of people start businesses or add an angle to their business because they ran into a problem, they solved it, they systematized it, and they went, "Wait a minute, now I can share this." Was the origin of well, let's just call it BBT. The origin of BBT, did it come from you had a problem, you're like, you have a crisis, I have to fix this.
That's it. Yeah, it came a couple different, so business problem, then family problem, and they all kind of coexist. The business was taking away all my time away from my family. So as you can imagine, it creates a tumultuous situation in both sides of both sides of life, essentially. And so basically the me of 10 years ago, I call the avatar in marketing speak cash rich, time poor. Very successful on paper. You've sort of figured out a good system for money that works for you, but you're time poor because your business is getting all your time and not your family. And so I went through a transformation where I was the bottleneck for everything. And I finally, came across to freedom. And over the last year or so, I was like doing some soul searching, I guess you could say. And I was like, I feel like I was put on this earth to do more than just sell a bunch of pills and make a lot of money. I had a supplement company that's very successful. But I feel like if I can help other people walk through the same transformation that I did and reconnect with their family so that we don't have devices, iPads and iPhones raising the kids, but you got, proper parent back in the home raising the child. That's what I feel I can create amazing generational legacy, and that can be something I can be proud of, and as opposed to just stacking up cash for no reason.
That makes perfect sense. It reminds me, I was closely connected to somebody in San Antonio, down in South Texas, your area there, and I won't say what company, but they were an executive at a very big insurance company that's based in San Antonio. I know you know who I'm talking
Mhm.
about right off the bat, but this person was very high level. They had a lot of respect at the insurance company. People loved them. They were a little tough as a boss, and people did what they said. I mean, they were a really leader in every way. And then but I knew them personally, and when they went home and took off the dress clothes, the home life was very tumultuous,
Mhm.
and some of that had to do with they had gotten married basically to their high school sweetheart. So they had done this transition from fry cook to university graduate to now super powerful at this big insurance company. And the relationship was stuck in this vision of kind of how it all began. So that needed a lot of work too. But some of that had to do with their absolute dedication to work, spending too much time pouring themselves into work, and then coming home with an empty gas tank for the family. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or that's the type of people that are coming to you for help. Is that right?
Absolutely. Been there, done that. Yeah, it's like business gets all the time, and what little time the family gets, if any, sometimes it's none. They get the burned out, stressed out, frustrated version of dad in my case. And yeah, so I realized that, yeah, we can't keep going in this direction. It's not fun for anybody.
And George, when you talk about customer avatar for your business now, who is that person that you can really move the needle for when they give you a call and reach out to you?
Yeah, it's somebody, like I said, cash rich, time poor. That they have likely have a team, a solid company, a business running, some resources, and they're doing way too many things that they know that they shouldn't be doing. Or maybe they don't realize that they shouldn't be doing it, but we, through a process of discovery, find things that they shouldn't be doing. Back at my peak of like feeling trapped in the founder prison that I built myself, I was working as much as 80 hours per week. And when I did what I considered as well, what I recommend as my first step in my process is do a freedom audit. You document everything you do for 2 weeks, and you don't be judgmental about it. The time you wake up, you're taking a shower, you're brushing your teeth, you're making food, you're working, like you want to document all that stuff. You'll identify some things in the first 2 or 3 days, but give it 2 weeks, you'll get a clear picture of a number of things that you should not be doing. You'll have things you should keep doing as the founder, business owner, entrepreneur, high level executive, whatever that might be. There's a zone of genius that when you're in there, that's what moves revenue for the business. That's what brings in the customers, brings in the money. Over here is stuff super duper important for the business, but it shouldn't be the same brain doing both or operating both. And so I know that they'll discover, like I did, there's a number of things, probably more than half of their work week in those things they shouldn't be doing. And for me, the peak of this insanity for me was, I'd scaled my business to $20 million in a particular year, had a money printer, and I didn't realize that half of my hours were on tasks that were $50 an hour or less in terms of value. So, say 40 hours a week on those tasks is about $2,000. So with my money printer, I could have just like easily bought back half of my life for not a lot of money compared to the revenue that the business was making. And
And brain
so,
surgeons, brain surgeons don't cut their own grass, do they? Because their,
exactly.
their
Yeah.
value is so high. And it's funny. I still have friends, and one in particular, a gentleman is probably going to watch this episode. He's doing very well for himself, and he still cuts his yard. And I razz him about it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with cutting your yard, but there's other things he could be doing with that time that he enjoys more. And but delegation is he's allergic to delegation, but I do think there's going to come a point where, because he's not in crisis yet, and whether it be when I quit drinking or big changes that I made, there was always a crisis. And I was like, okay, I can't live like this anymore. And some of it's time related. So you see that too when people come to you presumably the house is technically on fire and they need an immediate solution. Now, what you're offering, it sounds like, are there different levels, or is it done with you, done for you,
Yeah.
that kind of structure?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my book where it has everything I know about buying back time inside of it. But I know if they're like the me of 10 years ago, cash rich, time poor, I would have paid a mini fortune to collapse the time it took from bottleneck to present with my family. So that's what I help others walk through that same process that I did. And I have three different packages to do that. I
Oh,
have
good,
a
good.
done for you on the business side, where I first I have to learn about your business and then see where it is we can, what angles we can attack. And then it's not just done for you there and then leave you on your own. It's like you're going to have time to do other stuff. Let's give that time back to the family to restore the bond at home with the family that we've likely broken over the years. And so there's also frameworks for that, but that's done with you because I can't go to the games for you. That's the done with you aspect of the family. And then the next package is done with you on the business, also done with you on the family. And then there's another peer group mastermind, which is more of a group setting and hot seat style. Same transformation, same frameworks. We're going to the same destination. It's just the level of involvement I'm going to have in it is just the difference between the three packages.
And masterminds, of course, the biggest thing, and it goes back to when we put our money where our mouth is. And of course, this podcast has mastermind, and then it's part of our culture here, because the mastermind is a great way to have accountability, because it's not just if you're a coach and you're one on one, that's one thing. But when you're going to meet with a room full of entrepreneurs every week and they're going to ask you about that thing you said you were going to do last week, I'm laughing, but it's seriously, there's a serious level of accountability when you have to go on camera in front of that group of people that said, I need to call that one guy I'm afraid to call to close that deal, and they're going to check on you in a loving brotherhood, sisterhood kind of way. But I love the accountability of mastermind groups. Now, when you're working with these people, are there certain positions, sales, operations, finance, or leadership, that are tougher for these people to implement these things versus other departments?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, the person who will benefit the most can delegate. And I know there's some people that have jobs and they're in positions where it's tough because it all falls on them, and maybe they don't have control of their schedule. So the thought of buying back time might not apply to them because of where they are in their position. But certainly, there's tools and techniques that can apply to everybody to make them more efficient. And honestly, what I've told a couple of people who weren't ideal fits to be clients, like my cash rich time poor people, but others that are like, I love this stuff, how can I implement it to my life? I don't have a lot of flexibility at work. But you know what, you could take these concepts to your boss and propose how they can be more efficient, and show them how you're applying this in the own things that you're doing. And you can even propose on ways to be more efficient. If they are a good boss, they're gonna appreciate that and they're gonna love you for it. I can't see that being a bad conversation. So I think that's a great way to get some, I don't know, maybe some notoriety at work, some appreciation. Could be a helpful move up the ladder, up the ranks, to show that you care about the company and its efficiency. So I had a couple of people who are like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I want the book now."
Would you be interested in doing that at a corporate level, George, where you go in and you're going to help a whole department, or you're going to help a whole team, versus the one-on-one where you're doing it at scale?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely have interest in that. I've been doing this now for just going into my third month since I've developed this whole thing. So the book and buyback time formula has been around we're coming up on a year now, but the actual decision that I made that, hey, I want to impact people in a very close, intimate level, not just, sell a bunch of books. So this is relatively new, but that is on my path, on my journey, is to do a level of corporate training and programs there.
Scale it up, sprinkle it over the course of a room, maybe a whole live event where people from different industries come in. That would be pretty. I love the concept of that, of bringing it out to a bigger audience all at one time. Now, what about the vacation test? That's also a concept that you talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I consider the pinnacle of transformation if we can take a 2 week vacation test and the business grows without you. So it's not that it won't fall apart. That's just kind of status quo. It needs to grow without you. You need to have systems in place to make that happen. And so what I do with my clients, I on our onboarding call, I'll say, look at your calendar 6 months from now, book 2 weeks out, and you're going to invest in it. We're going to pay for it. Like we're investing, like we talked about earlier. If It's just thought about, but it's not invested and it might not happen. So we're going to make it happen. You pay for it, you invest. And then usually I tell them, hey, yeah, we're going to be off the grid for 2 weeks, or they are. And they kind of gasp and they're like, I can't even be out of my office for an hour in the afternoon. How am I going to go on this 2 week trip? Love it when people say that because I'm like, you need this more than you know if that's your response. So the clock starts now. Like that's how we're going to do it is we start right now. We're not going to just sit around and not do anything. So the goal is to identify the biggest bottlenecks in the first 15 days. So that's like we got our map of what we're going to attack in the first 15 days. The goal is the initial version one of this whole thing in 90 days. Like that's version one. There'll be little things that slip through. We'll clean them up, but that's why I'm here. We're going to make sure this thing is a long-term, long-term survival. And it's not like the 6 months comes up or give or take and or rip the band-aid. We're going cold turkey for 2 weeks. We're going to do what's called absence rehearsal tests leading up into it for shorter durations. At first, I'll kind of measure the comfort level of the client, but let's just say if they said, I freak out if I take an afternoon off, well, we're going to take an afternoon off. We're just going to take that little time off. And then we're going to graduate to maybe 2 days in the week off, and then maybe a long weekend, piggyback on a weekday on the other side of that. And then our 2 week trip. But what's going to happen in our little tests is maybe the accounting department doesn't get an email or something, or the shipping department, didn't get a notice. These aren't catastrophic things to a business. This is just, oh, it's delayed by a few hours because I wasn't there. And so we'll identify what are those little things that can not happen that we just don't think about. We think about the big things and we're patched up mostly, but these little things. So these rehearsals gives you a chance to expose what those little things are so that you can realize first, it's not devastating your business. We've fixed it. We found it. And now you have a history of leaving, for a short time. Now we can be comfortable for this 2 week trip and we put our systems in place. And we're going to have a number two person where everything escalates up to, and nothing's going to penetrate that number two. And sometimes I say that, I'm like, well, what could penetrate? Want me to struggle for an example because this never happened to me, but it's like just to satisfy somebody thinking, well, what would it be? I don't know, maybe like a legal issue, maybe a life or death situation, depending on the business. It could be, oh, the founder or the owners needed because they're the signer of a bank account and there's this critical financial transaction that needs to happen. But I'm struggling to find examples. It's never happened to me. So yeah,
Got to be
nothing
rare.
penetrates.
Hostile stock takeover or something really crazy, something
Yeah.
really, really crazy. Like, well, the biggest misconception out there, George, is that people think. I mean, obviously, there's a cost associated with your service, as there should be. But the biggest misconception that I've seen is that people, especially with delegation, when you're asking executives to bring in more people, more support staff, or to train the support staff, and they'll say, this is going to cost me a lot of money. It's already costing you money. If your value is worth $1,000 an hour and you're spending 20 hours a week doing $20 an hour, it's costing the company costing yourself a fortune. And I think that's hard to get through to people until they write it down. And that's why I think it's so brilliant that you say initially they're going to have to do a time audit because they really, I'm sure they have no concept of how much time and money they're wasting doing tiny these tiny these tiny things. I wanted to bring up too San Antonio because I'd lived there on and off for about 10 years. It's very different from the other cities in Texas, as all the major cities are very different from each other. Let's be honest. But that's San Antonio has always been my favorite city. I like blue collar towns. I like Pittsburgh. I like San Antonio. A lot of service driven industries there. What did you bring? Because of course now you're in the Austin area, but what are the values that you think from San Antonio that are kind of part of you from being from there that exhibit themselves in the business?
Yeah, I'd say like family values, it's been 20 years, I guess. Yeah, this year's 20 years that I've been out of San Antonio. I still have family that live there, so good 5, 6 times a year, I'm still down there here and there. So I can't say that I've spent a lot of time there as if I was living there, but yeah, it was a very like family friendly place. And it kind of had this small town feel, even though it's like one of the largest cities in America. I don't know where it ranks now. I know it's top 10, right? But
Yeah, gotta be. It's up there. It was number seven last time I looked, and that last time I looked was 6 or 7 years ago. But yeah,
Okay.
it was massive.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but it has this small town feel still, So it's yeah, no, there's a charm to it, and people are just nice and friendly, and it's a great place to raise a family, and good cost of living compared to other cities, especially Austin. It's like a bargain compared to Austin, and it's not even that far from it. But
And it's
yeah.
very relaxed. That's so the social element, I completely agree with you, George. That was the thing. I got invited to a lot of backyard barbecues. I lived on the south side for a while
Oh,
there, and man, I got to know everybody in the neighborhood, and and I love that because I'm not from an area where they were like that. And people in San Antonio, they laugh out loud. They're really living life, and there's a joy there. Like you said, it's like you're living in a small town where everybody knows everybody, except it's this massive, massive city. And I've always loved the vibe from San Antonio. I never cracked the code of being financially successful there. I did launch a few businesses. It is a tough market to crack, and obviously being involved in tech or anything involved in that, Austin is the place to be. Like if you want to get signed as a musician, you're into film, you're a tech guy, you want to be in Austin, which has a completely different vibe. Not crazy and moving at 130,000 miles an hour like Houston. I mean, Houston is, I try to get through there as quick. Nothing against it, but
yeah.
it's New York City on steroids. It's really really strange. But
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think is the biggest asset to being in Austin? Is there a lot of networking opportunities for what you're doing?
Yeah, I'd say networking. Yeah, networking is the big thing. Just a lot of like-minded people when it comes to tech and all that. I live on the west side of Austin in a little area called Spicewood, right at the edge of the county. It's more of a family-friendly place because, like Austin, inside of Austin proper, it's more, it's youthful and hip and action, and maybe 20 years ago was more appealing, but now it's family friendly. We kind of move out here west, but we can access the major facilities, the airport, the downtown, the events when we want at our own pace. So it's kind of nice to have the access when we need it.
Austin's like the biggest college town in America. That's what it feels like to me, like
Yeah.
this massive college town. Well, you've got a great way to attract new clients. You have the book available. Well, first of all, let's just say briefly the book, and then because there's a great way where they can go online. But you're the expert, so if you don't mind, share with us that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, the book is at buybacktimeformula.com. And if you go to that page, there's a link to the book. It's free, just cover shipping. It's like 9.99 shipping. It's 128 pages, so it's not a flimsy book. It's very light on fluff, just enough to explain why you need these concepts, but then it's just very like action oriented, and it's everything I know about buying back time. But I know there's people, like I said earlier, like me, the me of 10 years ago would have paid a small fortune to collapse the time it took from going from bottleneck to present with my family. I also have links to all of my socials on there. Like you, I don't do a whole lot of Facebook, or like I know you don't do any Facebook. I don't do a whole lot of Facebook, but I do post daily on there, and then I get off the app because I'm like, all right, we're done here. But I like to post daily motivation, daily thoughts, and so anybody wants to follow along with that, they can find me there. And I'm about to launch. It's called 18summersroundtable.com. It's probably for another episode in the
Yeah,
future,
I was
but
going to say, come back, George, when that iteration gets out there. I think that's fantastic. You were mentioning the family earlier, and I've been to events where all the family, or just even a private family, not my family, usually somebody, 'cause it's hard to get my family together, but I've been at other people's family, other families' events, and everybody's on the couch staring at their phone. And I had mentioned this on one of your LinkedIn posts, but it's a phrase that I like to repeat a lot. No parent I know has ever said, boy, I wish I had spent less time with my kids. I've never heard that. Have you ever heard that?
oh no, I was there at a deathbed confession, and that's not what my dad told me. He regretted missing my games, and he told me not to miss my son's games, and that was the foundation of everything I do now.
That's fantastic. And um, like you said in your post, which I really connected with. I don't have kids, but I was a latchkey kid. So I didn't interact with my parents a lot. And, I missed out on some things because of that. But they showed their love by being providers. And, it wasn't like I starved to death or I was abused. It's not that kind of story. It's just they weren't around. They were earning the money. But that was in the heyday of latchkey kids, before they
Mm,
realized, hey, kids need a little stimulation.
yeah.
But then came the, social media and the video games and all of this stuff that fills that void. But you said on the post that something to the effect of you don't know the last time your kid's going to ask you, or the how that time with your kid is disappearing, because you're going to go from cool dad, you're the greatest guy in the world, and then your kid's going to be too cool for you. They're going to make you drop them off away from school. They don't want you to pull up, and that phase, it happens one day, and then that opportunity is gone. So for anybody watching this that wants to make sure you don't miss out on those opportunities, you need to get with George.
Absolutely. I'm here and ready to serve.
Thank you so much, George. Did I leave anything on the table that
Oh
you
no,
wanted to cover?
you're good, Robert. Yeah, happy to be here. And yeah, let's do it again. This was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Come back when you've got this the next concept. Give us the second website again that you're going to be
Yeah,
launching soon.
yeah. 18summersroundtable.com and founderdaddinners.com was my other one. Hosting dinners at home in Austin for the cash-rich, time-poor founder dads who want a place to meet up and hang out, and then a virtual event similarly, 18summersroundtable.com. So,
That's perfect. Thank you, George. And of course, we're going to have your links. I'll add that to the description of this video. And thank you so much. We'll continue on Zoom, but we'll close the stream. Thank you,
thank you,
everybody,
Robert.
for showing up, and I appreciate all of our recent subscribers. All right. Sorry, I have to bounce my head around. I have this big camera right in front of me, and everything is